found a place where we can get some shelter.
It was the performance capture. So, you know, we were in skin-tight spandex, covered with ping pong balls.
Yeah.
And with helmets on our head, capturing everything our face was doing as we were performing.
Performance capture was the lion's share of the work, and that's just like you would do film or TV, except you look ridiculous, you know?
Maybe it's this first or second scene of the whole game where they bring in the body and it's everybody. It's like Dutch trying to like rally everybody and be like, "We'll be okay." When we were done, people started clapping and they said it was the biggest, the most motion, like the performance capture artist ever in like one scene.
By the time we did that shot, there was literally like what, about 15 of us? And one of the beauties of performance capture is like that would have taken us days to do with film, because there would have had to have been so many changing of the camera positions and whatnot. But with performance capture, the camera's anywhere and everywhere you want.
You know, sometimes we would stand in for someone else if they weren't there, and then they would ADR it afterwards.
Although I did get, I played Charles in one scene in the bar. I got to throw a chair.
Oh yeah, yeah,
It was a lot
of
fun.
Yeah.
When Milton comes to camp, what we shot on that day, Dutch sort of did a little do-si-do around Milton. So I got to be Dutch on half of the scene, and then we would play back that, and they'd mark out where the other characters would be, and then I got to be Pearson listening to Dutch in the same scene.
So they would layer it. At the very end, when the credits are rolling, where you see Mary visiting Arthur's gravestone, I was Mary.
A lot of people don't know this, so I'm going to tell you this now. In the first Red Dead, where he gets on the train and it's the train ride, and that's where you first see Bonnie McFarlane. Kimberly Irian, who played Bonnie, had yet been cast, and there was no one to be Bonnie, so I did the motion capture for Bonnie McFarlane on the train at the beginning of Red Dead. That's me.
When we did the first one, I was more in line with his size and shape. The scene turned into the scene when Dutch first meets Cornwall in Valentine. That was 2.5 years into the shoot. They'd had me sort of standing at the bar, and so the bar's built, and they haven't built a table. And I say, why aren't they building a table? I want to sit at the table. I think it'd be cool when he comes in if I stand up and show him how big I am. And Rod says, you're not that big. And I said, what do you mean? He says, Dutch is 6 feet tall, and I'm 6.5 feet tall. Just 2.5 years in. And now I know this. Once I knew that, things like this came up. Like I'd go reach for a bottle of moonshine in the back of a wagon, say. There was a mission where that happened. And then I'd stop and I'd ask the animator, can I reach that far? And the animator would say, oh no, that's a good point, you can't. So they'd put it closer, because for a 6-foot person's arm, not a 6'6" person's arm. There's a wonderful, and I mean wonderful actor, whose name is Brent Wurzner. He's exactly the size and exactly the shape of Dutch. So on that day, they built the trolley on its side, and Brent as Dutch and Harron and Roger were all crawling out of it. And then on another corner of the volume, scaled up exactly to my size, they've built the same set, essentially. I'm in a position where I'm crawling through the debris and I can see what Brent is doing naturally looking forward. And we're going through the exact same motions at the exact same time. My grunts, my face, my everything, and even maybe some of my movements are being captured, but they're being gelled to Brent.
My agent, Renee Glicker, she knew that I had done a video game before. When it popped up on her desk, she was like, oh yeah, Roger will probably like this. And she was right. And I remember it being a cold audition. There was no sides in advance. They wanted to see how we read cold. And it was a scene which they didn't end up using. It was some guy who was just coming into a bar, and he was just chewing the fat with the bartender. And then at the end of it, I said, well, sorry, but I gotta kill you now. Someone's put a price on your head. Did it, forgot about it, as you do with every audition, you gotta put it out of your head. And then I was doing theater in Florida, and Renee called me and said, oh, they want you, but you're down in Florida. So I told them you had to pass. And I went, oh, okay, well, that's that then. And then a few months later, they called again. Is he still in Florida? No. Okay, well, bring him in. And that was August of 2013. And that was my first day in the mocap studio with Rockstar Games. I did do one video game before with mocap years ago, but I was a minor character in a game called Shell Shock 2. And I was a guy called Sergeant Griffin, and I was also several zombies.
Well, that man in there is the last man to see White Knight. And we need White Knight.
I had done a couple of other video games before, like Ride to Hell, and like a couple, like there's another like Need for Speed or something, like, you know. I had done other mocap at the same like place where we were shooting before, so I kind of knew what to expect.
I play Javier Escuella, and also fans might know me from GTA 5, Oscar Guzman, the guy who teaches Trevor to use the airplane, make the shipments.
Oh yeah, they need guns, bro. So many guns. Luckily for us, they're easily acquired up here.
I did a character in Rockstar's L.A. Noire, Dr. Harlan Fontaine.
Why, thank you. I'm always happy to receive acknowledgement for my work.
A very sweet, kind, and loving man. Just like the, character I'm playing in Red Dead 2. Very gentle, loving, gracious.
But I developed this incredible fever cold, and I was just dead sick, and I had no voice whatsoever. It's the scene where I'm playing cards, and Arthur comes in, and I run off, and eventually he saves me from the train. And literally in between shooting, I'm chugging tea with honey and whatever else they got, because I had no voice whatsoever. And I could barely scrape together, Mr. Morgan! And I was dead sure I was fired after that day. You don't get backstory, and you don't get the whole script. And I had a very kind of brief thing on the spot to do. I think I started it pretty straight, I guess. The director came up and he said, I think he's a bit broader, big. And I'm like, how big? Well, I just go to 90. And so, because of that first day, that's the way I had to do a character for 5 years. Yeah.
There was one in particular where it was a very heavy emotional monologue for Bill, and it's Bill talking about how he met Dutch. I got very overwhelmed in that moment, and I felt like I was going to do something very unique. And I remember going over to the director, Rod Edge. We had talked about, we hadn't shot anything. We were going to do a take. And I remember going up to him and it's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to try something different. Do you mind? I go, and I remember, I'm going to try something different. Do you trust me? And he looked at me right in the face and goes, no, but do it anyway. I kind of went, everything became white noise, and I did it. And it ended up, we did it in one take. And they said, that's it. And that's what's in the game.
Look who we found sniffing about. Josiah Trelawney.
When I auditioned for the thing, it came with, specs, and he was supposed to be like a trickster, I think, a magician trickster, and they wanted some flourish to it. So I just came up with this thing I did in the audition. They had some dialogue, right? So I just came up with whatever I came up with in the audition, and then I got it. So I go out to the thing, and there's Rod. Anyway, we're on set, and I'm doing my thing, and he goes, no, you did something in the audition, and I sort of did it straight, I think, on set. And then he said, no, you did you were like more flourishy, and he did this sort of like that kind of a move, you know, like
a magician.
That was Rod.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, you want that guy? And he goes, yeah, something like that. And, you know, Rod's English. And so I wasn't about to do a serious English accent in front of all these English people. Instead, I came up with what I came up with, which was like almost a cartoon, like a cheesy, like if you're in Florida and you're at the ye olde Irish,
yes.
That's kind of the version of that accent. And the accent would change all the time too, because I forget what I was doing. So 6 months would go by and they'd have to do, like, we did a replay. I was like, oh, that's what he sounds like, right? And then there was this one line that I could always go back to that got me close to what I'd been doing, which was the way Trelawney says Arthur's name. Arthur?
Making new friends again, I see, Arthur. See you soon, Arthur.
Where it's like, it's needlessly pompous. It's overarching. I get the sense that Trelawney, what they wanted to do with Trelawney and what wound up happening with Trelawney was very different. But I do know that whatever they decide to do, that's what they're doing.
Some days were consecutive and some days weren't. It just depended on the shooting style and the shooting schedule and personal schedules, because we all have lives. I was pregnant. I shot pregnant. I was not pregnant when I began, and by the time we were done, I had a 1-year-old. And I was like, wait, what happened? Who did this? I think in some of the scenes, though, you can see me, I can see myself waddling a little bit. Okay. So I think it was towards the end of the pregnancy where baby boy was sitting kind of low.
Yeah.
And I can see myself kind of like, hey, Arthur, you know what I mean? Like,
every single one of us females had like chunk heels on. Okay. So I'm climbing water tower in heels. I'm jumping off the horse in heels. So, you know, just for
mad props, mad kudos.
All of us had our unique routine. Once we got to set and you're waiting in the green room, there was a ritual for everybody. Everyone had a unique ritual. What Ben Davis would do, Ben is a fanatic when it comes to the New York Times crossword puzzle. There was a chair that was nosebleeds, like that's Ben's chair, and that's where Ben would sit. So he'd do the New York Times crossword puzzle. No Shear is a muscular workhorse. He would bring out these like the exercise stuff, and he would just make the back part of the green room his gym. Rob would make sure that he had enough cigarettes, and there was enough in the fridge. There was enough Diet Coke, because the man he loves Diet Coke, so he would be drinking a cigarette, Diet Coke. I was the guy that would be looking up YouTube videos. It's like, oh guys, you guys see this? I'd be that guy, or take a nap or do something. Sean Haverly, who played Reverend Swanson, he'd always like go in the back couch and he would always like, it's time to pass out. He'd pass out.
You better sleep your way to salvation, my friend.
Peter Blomquist, who played Micah, Peter would diligently work his craftsmanship with his revolvers and gun. He would work on that. He would go into the bathroom and work on it. He would be in front of the coffee machine working on it. Ben would want help on the crossword puzzle. Look out, I put my YouTube video down. Rob would come over with a Diet Coke, try to figure out this word. I don't think Pete would stop. He would like be drinking coffee and twirling. Like I can picture in my head what everyone was exactly doing. I looking back, I miss that so much.
The first thing that strikes me when I think about that time is that when my mother did pass, Rockstar sent me the most beautiful, it's still by far and away leaps and bounds, the most beautiful bouquet of flowers. It said, Alex, we're so sorry for your loss. We're here whenever you can come back. Love your Rockstar family. And it was so bright and beautiful and colorful. And, often when somebody passes, you get a lot of white flowers. I guess that's just, what people send. but it felt like everybody there knew me because I'm a very colorful, playful person. And to have this insane bouquet of the most beautiful, colorful flowers, I felt very loved and seen by everybody there, and it was so comforting.
Is that any way to greet an old friend? I feel like we haven't spoken for days.
John O'Craig, who was the second uncle, and unfortunately he passed away halfway through the shoot, and then he was replaced by the amazing James McBride, who had to do the Herculean task of ADRing all of John's lines. But thankfully, Rockstar did keep, whenever you hear Uncle singing, it's still John O'Craig.
Young miss at dancing school is taught the minuet to tread. Young miss at dancing school is taught the minuet to tread. But we go better when we've brought our four-tack to Cathead. Come bustle, bustle, drink about.
And they made part of the map, O'Craig's Run is named after our compatriot John, that we all miss terribly.
May you rest in peace, yeah.
When Arthur is on the cliff with Micah and I step on his hand, there was a raked stage, I guess you could call it, that I had to walk up and away. He didn't quite die in front of me, he's still wheezing and coughing. Peter Blomquist is screaming at me, that's Micah, to come with him. And Dutch, in the moment, is realizing his failure. And I turned my back on both of them, and I walked up this rake, and I stood there as the scene continued to play out without me, and I just cried my eyes out. And I think 3 or 4 takes. It was really hard, and that happened chronologically, not quite at the end of our process, but we had been working together for so long.
Yeah, it was about 4 years.
At least 4 years in. Peter, Roger, and I, for a large section of our work, were kind of a unit, the 3 of us. This was, in many ways, the bulk of our lives for 5 years. And we were only in it together. So even now, just talking about it, it doesn't take much for my heart to break thinking about how our story ended.
We were all kind of made aware this is the last shoot, and then we were on the last day of the last shoot. There were probably 15 maybe or so Rockstar people, and then however many actors are playing their characters on set. But there are several other people that are in the building that are never on the stage. So for that scene, they brought everybody in, and it was really a big deal because everybody had worked so hard for so long on this game. It was a big, big moment, and it was so cool. And when they decided to take the take that we did, and Rod, with his familiar cut, take that. Yeah. When he said that, just everybody
started clapping.
Clapping.
He gave me the longest hug ever.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And I did tear up then. So John said, how emotional does John need to be right now? And I was asking, what I was thinking was, would he cry right now? And he realized what I was saying. He said, John Marston does not cry, but I almost did. I'm trying to get through the scene. It was really, really a big moment. I enjoyed it a lot.